Blair has more than 20 years experience in information technology solutions and operations management, working for consultancy companies based in Canada, the United States, Bermuda, and the Cayman Islands. His robust knowledge set and passion for the industry fuels the innovative solutions SALT provides for their clients. And Blair is going to be presenting on increasing productivity and control by understanding the effects of data latency and data sovereignty. Let's welcome Blair Lilford.
Good morning, and thank you very much, Kalila. And good morning to everyone. And again, TechCon and the team at TTech, I really appreciate being here. We're, as mentioned, what we're going to do today for my presentation is just talk about a little bit around data sovereignty, network latency, and cloud. As a cloud provider, that's what we do. We run and operate the Microsoft Azure cloud platform in Jamaica, in country, as well as Cayman, Bermuda, and we'll get into that as we move through the slides. We're going to take question and answers again after I've gone through the presentation. Keep them coming through, and I'm sure the team will be able to bring them up at the end of the demonstration or the slide deck. Just a little bit of background about SALT, as we're kind of a newer company. Some of you might not have heard about us. I started the company about 5-6 years ago. That's me, the young guy on the far left without the gray hair, and as you can see what happens when you owning a technology company, what a few years will do to you. As you can see, I'm on the Azure Stack Advisory Board. We're in the Insider Program, so we're a Microsoft shop. All we do is Microsoft products, and really we run and operate that cloud infrastructure. Just to kind of give some context, I'm going to be talking around cloud, data sovereignty, and network connectivity for us, and how you use that for productivity within your business. I'm going to make sure that everyone's on the same page. I know that we have a kind of a mixed bag of in the audience around some people who are very technical, some who won't be. So I'm going to try and keep this at a non-technical level. I do apologize if I go into the weeds a little bit too much. I am an engineer by trade, so sometimes I get a little excited about technology and talking about it, and so I'll try and stay away from that. But for all intents and purposes, what is Azure Stack? What have we got running in Jamaica at the moment? It is the same hybrid cloud computing software that Microsoft developed for their public Azure cloud platform. So you get the same marketplace, you get the same security levels, and it effectively brings that hyperscale public access and cloud into in-country. Okay. So as you hear me talking about Azure Stack, just know that Azure Stack is the platform that we run in Jamaica in the Caymanas data center. That's what we're going to be talking to in some of those points today. Okay. I wanted to mention before I move on, one of the reasons, there's a number of reasons why we kind of do what we do, but we are a local company. I live in the Cayman Islands, where our head office is. I lived in Bermuda for a number of years, and my wife and her family are all originally from Jamaica. So for us, there's a real connection. And one of the things of being in the Caribbean for the last 20 some odd years that I found was that we were always the ones who received technology, long after everyone else. And one of the things that I wanted to do, and I continue to do with my company, is to try and bring the I won't say bleeding edge, but pretty close to that technology that you would experience in North America and the US and Canada or places like that. And that for us was one of the big driving forces around us taking a platform that Microsoft had designed for being used to allow people to bring that cloud platform closer to where their data and users are, to closer to the users. And we're going to talk about that today. But I just wanted to make mention that we as a company have a real vision around technology and empowering local companies to consume those services in country. Okay. So I just want to make sure that everyone is on the same page as to what we're talking about. So a little bit of background for those of you that don't know what cloud computing is. This is the NIST definition, and if it doesn't meet those 5 points, you really shouldn't be considering it cloud. There are a number of cloud providers in the Caribbean, none that will be at the level that we are as far as security compliance. And again, we'll briefly touch on that. I'm going to touch a couple of slides on security and compliance, but I'm going to try and focus more around the network connectivity and data sovereignty aspects of this. Okay. But again, your core benefits of this is around that business agility, right? Your cost savings, your compliance, as I've mentioned, and flexibility to your staff, your end users, and to your ecosystem, whoever you're delivering that to. Okay. Before we move forward, as we talk about cloud services, I think it's imperative that we talk about, and this doesn't matter whether this slide really talks very much around shared responsibility model, and you'll hear Microsoft talk a lot about it. We talk about it all the time. On your far left is your current IT team and possibly and what they have on premise and their infrastructure, going all the way to your right, which is where everything is just like per user, pay as you go. And as you can see, the further you go from left to right, the responsibilities goes from being on-prem and your staff to going to the service provider, and then it goes up that stack as far as uptime and scalability. And again, this is imperative for everyone to have this conversation when you start talking about connectivity and cloud. Okay. So as I said, these are typically the 4 points. I see my deck didn't quite upload the right formatting, but that does say data sovereignty. But these are typically the 4 areas that we talk about. We're going to focus on 3 and 4 today. But these are really the main benefits for us on cloud and connectivity. So what really differentiates us from everyone else in the market at the moment? And I think realistically, that's the same as, I might be a little biased. We're a Microsoft shop, but I think Microsoft probably has the same pitch. What differentiates them from everyone else? A lot of it comes down to security. The Microsoft platform, hands down, has the largest security portfolio out of any of the cloud providers, AWS, Google, anyone. And obviously, as Azure Stack is an extension of public Azure, it's like the same API, same marketplace, or similar. You get that same security posture, right? You get to allow to have things like Key Vault, where you can manage your own keys, and you can extend your existing security and compliance framework or that you have in place, like MFA and conditional access, to wrap that around your access into your cloud. And really, that's probably the biggest difference. The Azure Stack is a sealed system. So we as the provider don't have access to our clients and tenants' VMs and information. And that traditional cloud that we see very, very often through the Caribbean, it is very different. The service provider has access to all of those underlying VMs, which is why they're able to go, would you like us to replicate this to another geo for you? Would you like us to, back it up for you? And you say yes, you sign a contract. They never ask for username and password. They take copies of your VMs. They back them up for you. We're not able to do that. We take the same approach, and it's the same model and the same platform as Microsoft. So that is probably the biggest differentiator. So I wanted to touch on that. I know there's loads of people that are talking around security during this event. There was some yesterday. There's going to be, I'm sure, more today. So I'm going to stay. That's all I'm going to be talking about as far as security today. But I did want to make note of it. Moving on. So compliance portfolio. You'll know of this. You would have seen this from Microsoft. Again, there's something here for everyone. Whether you're, if you're government, you have your FedRAMP, your SOC 1, 2, and 3. If you're medical, you have your HIPAA. If you're a bank, you have your PCI DSS. So there's something here for everyone. Again, not going to stay long on this slide. This one, hopefully, Microsoft and everyone has shared with you over and over again. Topic at hand. Let's talk about data sovereignty, right? So, when we start talking about data sovereignty this isn't a new thing, but it is more and more increasingly, we're finding countries, companies being more and more concerned about where their data is and where their workloads reside, and there's comfort around those workloads being in country. At Salt, what we've done is we have built out this cloud platform to allow companies to be able to consume the services that they've become accustomed to being able to use in public Azure, but be able to use those in country. There's things that so if you're we typically see this in like banking and things like that, where they're just in government jurisdiction or government bodies, where there's certain types of data that they just don't want to leave their borders, right? It's got nothing to do with not trusting anyone or anything along those lines. It's just there's comfort that it's here. It's in country. It's our law, our bylaws, or our data protection laws that are bound around where our data is, and there's no other country that can influence or change or get access to it just based off of them just deciding to change their bylaws or their data protection laws, right? What we've done is built out these Azure stacks in various geos. We have ways of doing large migrations. So again, if there's clients that have large amounts of data that they are looking to migrate into the cloud, we can use encrypted boxes that very similar to the Microsoft's data box. Again, clients manage that information. And as I mentioned before, we aren't able to replicate your data. The platform and what we offer in country it's a sealed system. So data sovereignty, again, data residency, data sovereignty, it's a topic that continues to come up more and more. We hope that by implementing this type of solution in Jamaica, that we'll be able to ease the minds of some of those people that are looking to have that. Latency. I'm going to just again just to make sure that everyone understands and everyone on the call understands what latency is. Latency is really that time for something to happen, right? So when you click on something, how long do you get something back? So if you are driving your car and you're going down the road and you're wanting to go to the grocery store, think of latency the same idea. How long is it going to take you to get to the grocery store and come back again? If it's right around the corner from my house, it's only going to take me a couple of minutes. If it's all the way 20 miles, 30 miles away, it's going to take some time. And that's the same for your data when you're on the network. So when we start talking about data latency or network latency, really the what we're talking about is how is that going to impact your end user experience, right? Your customer experience. How is the experience going to be good for them? And typically, when we start seeing nowadays with the amount of data and how fast people expect it to be processed and done, even the slightest bit of latency, people really feel it, right? Clients feel it when they're logging into the banking platform and it takes 3, 4, 5 seconds to load. And that's because your banking platform might be sitting either in up in Canada, or it might be in Dublin, or it might be somewhere else in the world. The idea of having those systems in country allows for the clients of yours that are also in country to feel as if it were almost immediate, right? Which is for us a big selling point, right? That end user and customer experience. Your data, for users in the office that are consuming services on a day-to-day basis, again, your end user, that experience and productivity for companies really can diminish if you find that that connectivity is poor or slow. And again, what we've done to do how we've designed the system is to ensure that all of that network connectivity stays on island. We have something what you call BGP peering. It basically means that if Digicel goes down, our circuits will automatically fail over to flow, and that allows for that redundancy. But it also means that if you are coming in from either one of the providers, it's a direct link. You're not having to go off island and then back on island just because you're with a different provider, right? When we also when we start talking about connectivity, one of the big things that often is a challenge is when people are looking to move from say on-prem to a cloud service. It's that migration of the data, right? If you have a lot of systems and a lot of data, and you try to move it to say the US or Canada, can find that it's very time consuming. Again, working with local partners, we can do things like express route equivalent, which is, think of it as a high speed connection between your office and the data center, and it makes that migration path a lot easier and smoother moving forward. So, and it looks like I'm not sure if everyone's seen the full deck on that. It looks like it might have been cut off, but this is me coming full circle again. What really does cloud and provide the end user and the consumer and the client at the end of the day? And these are, again, your core benefits, right? It reduces the business risk. It allows you to be flexible. Security increases your security, but it also empowers your staff and your team to be able to be self-sufficient. They can provision services and adapt to the way that where the business is going, right? So we all know if you're at this conference, you're in technology. That there is often we get requests coming in that go, where we have this idea, we want to go down this path. Now, when you ordered your equipment 2 years ago, no one had talked about this project. No one had this vision of moving down this path. And all of a sudden, you've ordered and bought your stuff on that CapEx, OpEx model. And you now, or CapEx model, you've got your IT and your equipment that you've provisioned for the next 5 years. And it makes it really hard for companies in this day and age to be agile if they're still staying with that on-prem environment. So that is the end of my presentation today. Really at the end of the day, the idea around cloud and cloud in country is really about increasing and empowering your companies to perform better, to be more agile, and we hope that we hope that we can continue to bring more and more of this type of technology in country for current companies to be able to consume and use and find new revenue avenues by using newer types of technology. So I think we'll move on to Q&A. I think I'm pretty close to being hopefully on time.
Yes, thank you very much, Blair. Just about in time. Yeah, we have one question. It comes from Renford Douglas. He says, "Are there Azure Express backend connections available in Jamaica and the wider Caribbean?"
So you will know that there's an express route going from in Jamaica back to public Azure. There's a number of carriers that do offer that. If we're talking about coming back to our Azure platform that's in the Commandus data center, we offer an express route equivalent. So we can work with Digicel to provide you with a high-speed link that is encrypted just like it would be with express route and give you some quality of service from your office to the data center. So yes, there is an express route equivalent that we've built out to be able to provision those types of services into our platform.
I see a couple other questions coming in now. Let's take this one from Norval. Says, which is more cost effective, Azure or AWS? Just came on, so not sure if you covered that.
So yeah, I will say that's kind of asking a loaded question. It all depends on the service that you're doing, what kind of model you have for consumption. If you're willing to prepay, reserved instances. Where I'm going on this, it is a loaded question. AWS typically for your traditional workloads is less expensive, but you give up certain features on that, right? And that really is around that security and compliance. So it all depends on where you are and what you're doing. Again, we're a Microsoft shop, and for us, especially with the landscape of cybersecurity and the security threats at the moment, I would be willing to spend a little bit extra money and know that I have that security portfolio and compliance behind me, rather than taking a less expensive workload in AWS. But that's my own personal opinion.
Okay, I see a question also from Chris Record. Says, hey Blair, is there a way to assess a customer's environment to see if the apps that want to move to the cloud are really cloud ready or not?
There is, and good morning, Chris. Thank you very much. for having me on here today. So there's a program that we run that's called a cloud adoption framework. This is not something new. Microsoft has been doing this for years. Because we're using the same platform, we use the same methodology. So yes, we can come in, we do a workshop, we do a full analysis of all your existing infrastructure, what's running, and we'll give you what's cloud ready, what's not. It'll be basically a red, amber, green. So green ones are ready to move, as are. Amber ones are that might need some slight modification, and red ones are ones that you're going to have to look at, either newer technology, redeploying, re-architecting. But yes, that is a service that we can offer, or actually any of the Microsoft partners. So I'm sure Chris and his team would be able to offer this type of service as well. But yes, it's called the Cloud Adoption Framework, and it's very well known in the Microsoft industry and with consultants.
Lisa also has a couple of questions. She wants to know, what is the regional footprint for cloud services based on 20 years in the Caribbean?
What's the regional footprint? That's an interesting question. So it depends on what you'd categorize as cloud. And again, I go back to the first slide I had there, and I had asked people to look at that definition from NIST. If you do look at it that way, I don't think there's really, I would argue that we're one of the only cloud providers in the Caribbean. The reason for that is it's supposed to be metered, right? You should be able to say, I want to use this service for, just like your water service, I want to use this for a day, an hour, whatever it might be, and you only pay for the amount you're consuming or using. The traditional cloud providers that are around, you'll go to them, you'll give them your hardware specs, and they'll charge you for the full month, and you're locked into a long-term contract. And that's not the model of cloud. It should really be flexible. You should be able to go, I have a proof of concept that I want to run this week or for the next 2 months. I'm going to consume what I need, I'm going to turn it off, and I'm done. You shouldn't have to sign on long-term contracts just to be able to consume cloud. And you should be able to do it yourself. It should be self-service. You shouldn't have to email people, wait days or weeks for a quote to come back, and then them say, okay, well, our team will do it. And like this, it's just, that's archaic. That is not the way that this was designed, how cloud computing was designed. So again, it all depends on what you consider cloud. But if you're talking that elastic cloud, like what we're talking, we are really the only ones that are offering this in the Caribbean.
And I have one last question also coming from Lisa. She wants to know, what does the region need to do to scale to first world cloud applications?
Education. It's not that the technology is not here, and I know that this is a massive topic across the board. I sit on a number of different boards, Digital Cayman, everything else, that we are trying to bring more and more of that first world education into our region. And that's not saying that the team and the companies and the universities and schools that are here aren't doing a great job with as is, but it is really around education. The classes and us as a community need to start, with our kids. I've got 3 kids. They're doing robotics at school, right? The idea, when they get out, they'll be able just to consume those services. So it's not that the platform is not there. The foundation is there for them to build on right now. What we're needing are the people that have the skill set to be able to build on those building blocks, right? To be able to go, great, we want to use cognitive services. So we're going to build out, something around, a record, taking all these images, say at the police or wherever it might be, and starting to use these types of services that we see being used in first world countries, right? Again, this is why we brought these platforms to Jamaica, was for people to be able to consume this in country, and be able to put up their hand and be proud that we have these services, but also for people to be able to start using it, right, on a day-to-day basis, whether that's using IoT and on streetlight sensors for to make traffic more functional and efficient, or whether that's, like I said, cognitive services or blockchain. You can run all of that on the Azure platform, right? So again, that's education. I can't stress it enough.
Absolutely. So we have 2 minutes left, and I saw a question just come in, and this one's from Wesley Wright, who wants to know, should your cloud service provider be an equal partner in developing your disaster recovery plan for applications that are hosted in the cloud?
Sorry, you broke up a little bit there, but I think you asked, should the cloud provider be work with
Should it be an
the
equal
client?
partner in developing your disaster recovery plan?
So it can be. It all depends who your consultants are. At the end of the day, you have a trusted team that you work with, and there's many different solutions when you start talking about DR. But DR in cloud is a very good option, and if you are using a cloud provider, it never hurts to have everyone at the table, right? The day someone walks into the room and tells me they know everything about everything, you know what? I'll give up my job as CEO. We're all in technology. Technology is expanding at such a pace. It never hurts to have talented people in their space, so SME subject matter experts in their space at the table to say, right, well, this is what you're looking at. This is the challenge or problem you have. Let's see how we can fix this. So if you're trying to do DR, well, let's have a conversation around what that technology might look like. What are your RPOs? What are your RTOs? And there's many different ways that might get architected, but it definitely does not hurt to have your cloud provider at the table in those conversations.
Well, thank you so much, Blair, for that very insightful presentation, and of course for your responses to the questions. Thanks again.
Thank you very much, Kalila. Have a good day.